It was a cold November evening when Sarah moved into her new apartment in downtown Chicago. She loved the place: high ceilings, large windows, and a view of the city lights stretching endlessly. Everything seemed perfect until the first night. She had just unpacked when she heard it, a thud from the apartment directly above hers. At first, she thought it was normal, maybe a neighbor moving furniture or a stray object falling. But the thuds continued, night after night, always at 2:13 a.m. Then one night, Sarah woke up to the sound of someone walking on her ceiling, but not just footsteps. It sounded like running, dragging something heavy. She tried to ignore it, convincing herself that city apartments make strange noises. But soon, she noticed something else. Shadows. Small, fleeting movements under her ceiling, like someone was pacing back and forth, watching her. Sarah called the building manager. He assured her no one was living above her. That floor had been empty for months. "Maybe it's the heating pipes," he said. But she knew the difference. Pipes don't laugh. Pipes don't drag chains across the floor at night. One evening, determined to catch the intruder, Sarah set up her phone to record the noises while she stayed awake in the living room. At 2:13 a.m. sharp, the noises started. Heavy footsteps, dragging, then a whisper. "Why are you here?" She froze. She could feel someone above her, staring, smiling, breathing. Then the ceiling groaned and the floor beneath her shook violently, as if someone had jumped down, but there was no one there. Terrified, Sarah packed a bag and left that night. The next day, the building manager explained something that made her blood run cold. The apartment above hers had been vacant for over 3 years. The previous tenant, a man obsessed with watching the living, had died in a fire. Authorities never found his body, only a charred ceiling where his apartment used to be. Sarah never returned, but sometimes, when new tenants move in, they hear the same footsteps at 2:13 a.m. And sometimes, the ceiling creaks, and a faint whisper asks, "Why are you here?"
Kenji had always dreamed of living in the heart of Tokyo. The city's energy, neon lights, and endless streets felt alive in a way no other place could match. So when he found a sleek, modern apartment in Shibuya, he didn't hesitate to sign the lease. The apartment was perfect. Compact but stylish, with smart devices that controlled the lights, temperature, and security. It was quiet, safe, and in the perfect location. For the first few nights, everything seemed normal. Then the phone calls started. At exactly 11:03 p.m. one night, his phone rang. He answered, expecting a wrong number, but heard only a whisper. "I see you," the voice said. Kenji froze. It sounded like a woman, calm and soft, almost distant. He hung up, thinking it was a prank. But the calls continued every night, always around the same time. Sometimes the voice would speak his name. Other times, it would describe things in the apartment he hadn't told anyone about. A week later, he returned home late from work and found all his smart devices acting strangely. The lights flickered, the temperature dial changed on its own, and his security camera feed glitched. And then he heard it, a voice, soft and low, coming from the walls. "You're home alone," it said. Kenji's heart raced. He checked with the building manager. The apartment next door had been vacant for months. No one had keys. Yet every night the whispers continued, growing more insistent. They would follow him through the apartment, appearing in the hallway, the kitchen, and sometimes just behind him. Determined to find answers, Kenji set up his own recording devices. Cameras, audio recorders, even motion sensors. For days, nothing unusual appeared. Then, one night while he was recording, the voice spoke. "Why are you hiding from me?" That was the first time the whisper sounded angry. The subtle, calm tone had shifted to something menacing. Kenji felt as if invisible eyes were watching him from every corner. He began to notice other strange things. Objects in the apartment would move slightly when he wasn't looking. Doors he had locked would be slightly ajar the next morning. Small scratches appeared on the walls, sometimes vertical, sometimes like someone had dragged their fingers along the surface. Kenji tried to rationalize it. Perhaps it was stress or fatigue from long workdays, but he couldn't explain the shadows that sometimes flickered in the corner of his eyes, or the cold gusts of air that passed through the apartment even though all windows were closed. One evening, after weeks of escalating events, Kenji decided to investigate the walls. He removed a small panel behind the TV and discovered a hidden microphone. Heart pounding, he realized the horrifying truth. The neighbor wasn't next door. The voice had been coming from inside his own apartment. Shocked, he checked every wall, every nook, and found more hidden devices, microphones, tiny cameras, even speakers. It became clear that he had been under surveillance for weeks. But by whom and why? Days later, Kenji found old news articles about his building. Several previous tenants had reported strange noises, voices, and moving objects. A few had disappeared entirely. Police investigations had gone nowhere. The building was rumored to have been used in a psychological experiment decades ago, but no records remained. By this point, the voice had begun interacting with him directly. It would mimic his own thoughts, mock his fears, and sometimes whisper threats that made his skin crawl. Kenji began sleeping in the bathroom just to feel safe, but even there, the voice would call him by name. The final straw came one night when he returned home to find the apartment empty, except for a shadow standing in the corner of the living room. The figure didn't move or speak, but Kenji could feel its presence, watching him. His recordings later showed nothing unusual, but he swore he could see glowing eyes in the darkness, staring, waiting. Terrified beyond reason, Kenji packed his belongings and fled the apartment at dawn. He contacted the building manager one last time, demanding answers. The manager admitted the apartment had been notorious for unexplained occurrences for years, and many tenants had left abruptly. He warned Kenji to never return. Kenji moved out of Tokyo entirely, but even now, years later, he says he can hear faint whispers in empty rooms, and sometimes, in the dead of night, his phone rings and the voice whispers, "I never left." Some apartments hide more than just walls and furniture. Some hide watchers, and some, no matter how far you run, will follow.
Michael had always dreamed of living in Manhattan. The energy, the skyline, the bustling streets, it all felt exciting. So when he found a small studio apartment on the Upper East Side, he jumped at the opportunity. The apartment was perfect. High ceilings, a vintage brick wall, and a large window overlooking the city lights. It felt cozy and modern at the same time. The first night, Michael was unpacking when he noticed something odd. In the corner of the room, partially hidden behind a stack of boxes, there was a small wooden door he hadn't seen during the apartment tour. It was old, with peeling paint, and it had a rusty padlock. He tried to jiggle it, but it didn't budge. Thinking it was just an old storage closet, he ignored it and went to bed. That night, he was awakened by a soft scratching sound. At first, he thought it was the usual city noises, pipes, traffic, neighbors. But then he realized it was coming from the corner where the locked door was. The scratching became a low hum, almost like someone whispering. Over the next few nights, the sounds grew louder. The door seemed to vibrate, as if someone was on the other side trying to get out. Sometimes, Michael would hear muffled voices arguing in a language he didn't recognize. Other times, the scratching would move around the room as if the presence was walking on the floor. Michael called the landlord. The landlord insisted there was only one room in the apartment. He said there hasn't been a door there for years. It's probably just an old panel from the building's renovation. But Michael knew what he heard. This was no panel, no normal noise. One evening, after a particularly restless night, Michael woke to the sound of keys jingling. His heart raced. The padlock was gone. The door slowly creaked open. He froze, staring into the dark space behind it. The room appeared empty at first, but then the smell hit him. Sharp, acrid, like something had been decaying for years. On the floor, he found old, faded photographs of a family he didn't recognize. Their eyes seemed to stare right through him. Michael picked up one of the photos and his hands trembled. He noticed something chilling. The faces in the photographs seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. When he looked back, the smiles were gone, replaced with expressions of horror and fear. From that night on, Michael's apartment became unbearable. Objects would move on their own, books falling, doors slamming, lights flickering. At times, he would wake to bruises on his arms, deep purple marks as if invisible hands had grabbed him. The noises from the locked room escalated into whispers calling his name. He tried recording the apartment with cameras, but nothing unusual appeared on the footage. Yet Michael could feel the presence. He started sleeping in the hallway instead of his bedroom, afraid of going near the locked door. One particularly stormy night, the whispers became voices, clear, angry, demanding, "Why are you here?" Michael froze in terror. The door rattled violently, and he felt a cold gust sweep through the apartment. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. Then a shadow emerged from the room. It was tall, thin, and distorted, with glowing eyes staring directly at him. It didn't speak, it only watched. Michael ran. He didn't look back. He called the landlord the next morning and demanded an explanation. The landlord confessed something that made his blood run cold. The previous tenant had disappeared mysteriously, leaving the apartment locked for months. No one knew where he went, and the building had received complaints of strange noises, but no one stayed long enough to investigate. Michael never returned to the apartment. He moved out the same day. But he says that even now, years later, whenever he walks past old buildings or empty apartments, he feels that same chill, the feeling of being watched, of unseen hands reaching for him. And he wonders, what really lived behind that locked door? Some doors, he learned, should never be opened, and some rooms should never be entered.